Hello everyone, Nitsa Gamer here to talk about Hideo Kojima's passion project game since Konami kicked him out the door, Death Stranding. This was a game, like many other gamers, I was definitely curious about when it first got announced at E3 2016. What can the man behind Metal Gear and the cancelled Silent Hills game bring to the table with the Walking Dead actor Norman Reedus? Is it a horror supernatural game or an espionage stealth game? The answer? It's a postal delivery service simulator game in the post-apocalyptic future. Definitely not the type of game that people suspected, and sadly, a game that some people couldn't get into. I'll admit, I did start off as one of those people that didn't like the gameplay loop at first, but after putting the game down for a few months and continuing it to the very end, I fell in love with Death Stranding and continued playing the post-game content without getting bored. It's a game that makes you appreciate the hard work that those who do thankless jobs do, which, hey, kind of explains why rich and privileged YouTubers crap on this game. While I could make a big video on this game, I don't have a YouTube audience built around it to make it a video worth doing, and doing a challenge run is hard to come up with when Game Champ herself covered hundreds of ideas in one video. So I'm going to talk about a short topic, the PCC structures of Death Stranding. In Death Stranding, you have the option of crafting around 108 possible gear to help you progress efficiently in the game, from boots to support skeletons to guns to vehicles, but the most unique equipment is the PCC structures. Short for Portable Chiral Constructor, you can build between 7 or 10 different structures to help make your delivery go smooth. And if you're playing in online mode, you could use other player structures while also allowing players to use your structures to help them in their playthrough. Whether you're building zip lines, bridges, or timefall shelters, these structures are very helpful in making the experience of Death Stranding fun. To build a structure, you have to have an area of the map connected to the chiral network and have enough bandwidth to build one. And you can increase that bandwidth by getting facilities to connect to the chiral network, or increasing your bond with them to the maximum of 5 stars. But what structures are worth building or engaging with? Well, for this video, I will be ranking all 10 PCC structures. For this ranking, I'll be focused on the director's cut release of the first game, which added 3 additional structures. I'm only looking at the structures from the first game because, truthfully, despite how much I love Death Stranding, that I played through the original and director's cut version while also getting the Platinum Trophy, I am poor and waiting for a discount for Death Stranding 2. Look, adult life is expensive, okay? Anyway, here's my ranking of the 10 PCC structures of Death Stranding Director's Cut. The Post Box. Definitely, without a doubt, the most semi-useless structure in the game, or at least one not worth building yourself, especially in offline mode. This is the first structure you unlock, and it shows. The point of this structure is to provide a temporary private locker while out in the world, while also allowing you to donate cargo to players who can obtain it through the shared locker, and you can entrust players with lost cargo that is more out of your way or getting in the way of traversing the map. And that's pretty much it. It definitely has its use, don't get me wrong, but outside of upgrading it twice for the Trailblazer trophy and one delivery request that demands you to build one early game, it doesn't really help with 100% completion. And the only point of upgrading a post box is increasing the storage capacity and timefall resistance. To me, I find it useless because you know what's better than using a post box? Using the distribution centers or actual facilities which come with a private locker, shared locker, and entrusting other players with delivering lost cargo. Not to mention, there's no guarantee that hundreds of players are not going to be able to use the cargo you entrust or donate. Granted, I don't know how the donate or entrust system works in the game, but if it's tied to that one post box that only a select number of players have access to, and some may never go to that post box or even play this game again, then it's a feature that is not going to be useful to you or the player you're trying to help. You're better off donating cargo at facilities or building more worthwhile structures that can actually aid in another player's delivery or your own. And most cargo I can claim usually has lower level equipment that I don't need because, well, the player who donated it never needed them. The only kind of use I got out of it most of the time is that players tend to build these post blocks next to a road paver in Central America, which has a chance of having free metals and ceramics inside the shared locker for you to build the roads on your save file. It's not a guarantee, but that's really the only practical use of the post box, and if you're playing this game in offline mode, the shared locker feature is unusable and it just becomes a random place where you can have a private locker, which is definitely not ideal. You're better off just sucking it up and carrying your heavy load, or offloading what you don't need. On the upside, it's the cheapest structure to build, only costing 200 bandwidth on the chiral network, but you're better off saving that 200 bandwidth building something else. If you got more use out of the postbox than I ever did, feel free to explain why in the comments below. Otherwise, I consider this the least useful PCC structure of Death Stranding. The Watchtower. This is more of a convenient structure than it is one that actually makes things easier. While sure, postboxes have practical uses, the Watchtower is convenient for most of your playthrough. Using one can get you a higher view and surveillance of the surrounding area, allowing you to efficiently mark points of interest without having to scan them yourself. This helps with planning out your route so you can find cryptobiotes for healing, chiral crystals for fabrication or road building, lost cargo for materials, or increasing your connection level with a certain facility, structures built by you or other players, or even scouting enemy camps or distant prepper shelters. You could definitely manage fine without one, and they do outlive their usefulness in the post game, but I find them more handy than post boxes. It only costs 250 bandwidth to build one, and upgrading it allows you to use music and hologram customization, which is a feature added to pretty much all level 2 structures, and upgrading it also decreases the time it takes to decay by timefall. Definitely handy throughout your playthrough, and worthwhile using an online one during your trip, but not one you yourself will be building a lot of. The Cargo Catapult. This is one of the 3 structures added to the director's cut version of the game, and honestly, it feels like it was added to shut the players up who complain about falling over all the time and walking too slowly because they were carrying too much cargo or weren't holding the L and R buttons down. But allowing yourself to launch your cargo, you could save the hassle of traveling rough terrain and pick it up wherever it lands. In theory, it sounds like that was the intent, but in execution, it's hardly ever useful, but it does have its uses, don't get me wrong. There's 2 major problems with this structure. 1, it costs a whopping 1,100 bandwidth to build, being the second most expensive structure to build in the game, and the distance it shoots doesn't work well when going up hills, and even the distance itself would take a shorter time if you were to just walk there with the cargo instead of taking the time to set up an expensive catapult and shooting it as far up as possible. Yes, you can run faster and handle rougher terrain the less you carry, but it's really not that big of a deal if you don't do something stupid or make sure you equip the most efficient equipment or go off-road with vehicles. Now, this sounds like the cargo catapult would be handy in the early game since you lack useful equipment that helps you with carrying heavy loads, and you would be right. Except you don't unlock the ability to build a catapult till the end of Chapter 5 when you connect Mountain Knot City to the chiral network, which is like more than halfway through the main storyline. By then, especially if you've been doing other deliveries in between the main story deliveries, you'd have better options than using this expensive structure. I pretty much had no need to use it for any delivery purposes, not even the online catapults to help me make my deliveries easier. I just suck it up and carry it with me. There is, however, one very good use for it that I found very helpful, especially in the post-game. When dealing with mule camps, they go after the cargo that you leave behind, so if you manage to unlock the Vog-emitting decoy cargo by reaching 2 stars with the Elder, you can fabricate this cargo by a cheap amount, put it in the cargo catapult pod, and launch it to various spots around the mule camp. Doing so, you can knock out so many mules at once, reducing the amount of firepower coming your way and making clearing out campsites easier, which you'll definitely want to do if you want to complete the premium deliveries as efficiently as possible. And while hard to do, you can have the catapult pod knock out a mule if it lands on them. Sadly, this is not effective with terrorists, since terrorists don't care about cargo as much as they care about being cold-blooded murderers, but still, it's a fun structure to use and can help cheese your infiltration of mule camps, especially on harder difficulties. Upgrading it will increase the range you can launch a pod and increase the timefall resistance. It's a very situational structure, but not one without its use. If you personally found more use out of it than I did, be sure to explain why in the comments below. The Chiral Bridge, yet another structure added to the director's cut version, and this structure is pretty much the bridge structure on a tight budget. It costs 350 bandwidth, and you can use it to create a small bridge to cross streams or cliff sides. It's definitely a handy structure, but only useful if you're delivering cargo on foot, and only useful in areas where there's no timefall. If it rains or snows, the bridge becomes unusable, and because it's more built for players traversing on foot, using trucks is not ideal with chiral bridges. And unlike the vanilla bridge, which helps you not consume battery when crossing it, that feature is not included on the chiral bridge. It's definitely one of those situational structures, but still handy when dealing with rough terrain or walking over deep water. But it's completely useless where it rains or snows. It's a situational structure, but definitely a useful structure that is handy in areas where timefall never happens. The jump ramp. The last of the 3 Director's Cut exclusive structures, and without a doubt, the best one. When you jump off the ramp, whether by running on foot or driving by vehicle, you can jump a good distance, and regardless of how far you fall, you and your cargo will take no fall damage, and if you use the speed skeleton or a motorcycle, you can cover even greater distances. This creates such a badass feeling of just jumping for it and having no fear of damage or death when you fall. You can even impress BB if you pull off great distances. This structure can function as a one-way bridge to cross rivers or take shortcut routes down a mountain. Again, without taking fall damage and looking badass while doing it. It costs 550 bandwidth, so while not cheap, it can be handy in multiple scenarios, especially in the late game when completing premium deliveries. Upgrading it only increases the timefall resistance, but if you're committed to completing everything, upgrading the structure is so worth it. Definitely a structure you'd make more use of when doing the optional content and can be situational in practice, but still useful when used right and a badass feeling when you use it. And from here on out, this is when the PCC structures goes from situational to always useful. The Timefall Shelter. Definitely a very useful structure if you want to avoid your cargo taking too much damage or to do a last minute cargo repair before you deliver it to get more likes. For those who haven't played the game, Timefall is rain that rapidly ages whatever it touches, and because of that aging effect, this causes structures that you build and cargo left out in the open to rapidly decay. And since you are always dealing with Timefall and BT territories, your cargo will decay, which will inevitably lead to what you're delivering taking damage. This can be detrimental and cause a game over for main story deliveries, or give you a poor rating when you deliver the cargo in bad shape. This is especially detrimental when doing premium deliveries, where most of the requirements require the cargo to have little to no rust on them. One way to repair cargo before delivering it is to use a container repair spray, but with that adding weight onto you and running out eventually, your other option is to build a Timefall shelter next to the facilities and stand underneath it. This shelters you from the rain and uses its own container repair spray to clear the rest off your cargo. There's even an option to pass 10 in-game minutes for a chance that the rain clears, as some areas never stop raining and some periodically rain. It also has the secret function to fucking up your chill deliveries, as I found out mid-recording. It is sadly an expensive structure to build, costing 750 bandwidth, but it's still a worthwhile one to build and upgrade. Upgrading it will boost the effects of the container repair spray and increase its timefall resistance. This is a very useful structure to help you get the most amount of likes from each facility, as likes are necessary to S-rank normal and premium deliveries and deepen your connection level with that facility. And remember, more stars means more bandwidth, which feeds into more structures being built. Timefall shelters never stop being useful, and is arguably more useful both when you're at your most unprepared and the post-game. Definitely a very worthwhile structure to build, or even upgrade the online versions that you find in the world to increase your efficiency with increasing your connection levels. There's next to no situation where this structure is ever useless. The Bridge, aka the better version of the chiral bridge, but definitely the most costly and third expensive structure to build, costing you 1000 bandwidth and requiring you to donate 800 medals to truly build the level 1 version of the bridge. Definitely handy when playing offline, but you may hardly ever build one yourself since online structures tend to have them in the most convenient spots you need them for. A bridge to the engineer, a bridge to the doctor, a bridge for crossing multiple rivers and chasms, and even just going over rough terrain for no reason. While they have the potential of getting in the way of zip lines, they are never useless. Whether you're on foot or carrying heavy loads or driving a truck, you can cross a bridge no problem. And crossing the bridge prevents battery consumption, making it a slight bit convenient and possible for you to reach your destination without having to whip out a generator. Upgrading a bridge only increases the timefall resistance, as eroded bridges will not prevent battery consumption, but it still functions as a functional bridge until its durability reaches 0%. Bridges never stop being useful and are handy for both off-road deliveries and crossing dangerous areas. While you're more than likely to use online bridges and not bridges you build yourself, that's okay because you will still be using them a lot. If bridges helps us connect the country again, you bet it's one handy structure to build, regardless if it's early game or late game. The Safe House. Just like the bridge, you'll likely use the online versions built by other players than ones that you would build yourself, as it costs 2,500 bandwidth, making it the most expensive PCC structure to build. And you need to add a lot of materials to build the level 1 version of the Safe House. But the Safe House is a very useful one to use, or just loot the materials from the online ones. Safe houses are essentially like distribution centers in cities where you can sleep in a private room, pacify BB, refill your energy drink canteen, and create EX grenades. But the reason why a safe house is handy is not just to restore your stamina and BB's happy levels in the middle of nowhere, but to use it as fast travel when you jump with Fragile. At some point in the game, Best Girl Fragile will offer her ability to have you jump between private rooms throughout the entire map. And if you're playing in online mode, most safe house structures tend to be built next to your clients or key important locations. So if you have one built next to the Timefall farm, you have quick access to the farm, the veteran porter, and the racetrack if you're playing the director's cut version. Though, honestly, the racetrack kinda sucks, not gonna lie. While you may only build the structure once or twice due to how much bandwidth it takes up, playing in online mode, you'll find yourself going between some of these via Fragile Jump to make things efficient, or maybe set up a zipline system efficiently, which, yeah, we'll talk about that structure soon. But it doesn't just act as a free private room, it's also a place where you can fabricate equipment, use it as a garage for vehicles, and use it as a private locker, making the entire use of the postbox obsolete, since the safe house does everything the postbox does, but better. Outside of the expensive bandwidth cost, it's always a useful structure that functions exactly like a private room and should be seen as no less than one. Though ideally you should use a regular private room's private lockers more over safe house private lockers for more efficiency, especially since safe houses can decay and be permanently lost. But still, it's a very useful PCC structure if you want to use fast travel or build vehicles out in the middle of nowhere. The generator. There's never a moment where a generator is not useful, especially if you are out in the middle of nowhere and trying to not run out of battery for your vehicles and skeletons. Generators can be built next to facilities, especially ones outside of distribution centers. It can be built next to road pavers if you're trying to build roads, or you can carry a PCC cargo with you off-road, so if you run out of battery, you can just whip out a generator to get your vehicle back to full again. It only costs 350 bandwidth, and upgrading it extends its range of charging and speed your batteries charge, while also adding on timefall resistance. There's not too much depth to say since generators are straightforward, but it's always a useful PCC structure to build or drive by whenever you see one. Since vehicles just straight up stop working when you run out of battery, keeping your vehicles charged up is always important. A very useful structure, but there's no doubt one structure better than the rest. The zipline. You all knew this one was coming. This one is without a doubt the most overused, useful, efficient, and favorite PCC structure used by everyone, including those who hate this game. Why? Because it allows you to zip across the map fast and quick, allowing you to avoid traversing through rough terrain or BT territory again. It costs 500 bandwidth to build one, so while not the cheapest, it's doable to build a zipline network to connect all the distance facilities away from the distribution centers. You can build one yourself, or use some online ziplines in between. It can reach 300 meters, and when upgraded to level 2, it will extend its range by 50 meters. Even if the distant connecting zipline is level 1, only one zipline needs to be upgraded to level 2 for the extension to go to 350, and upgrading it further gives it more timefall resistance, which is definitely something you want because nothing sucks more than having a zipline be in an eroded state and having your network be severed. But you could still always repair it with chiral crystals, or upgrade to instantly increase its durability to 100% while giving it more timefall resistance. Outside of the structures, of course, decaying, the downside with ziplines is that you can't carry vehicles on it, so carrying a truckload of cargo is a no-go. But that's mostly it. It should be noted that in the vanilla release of Death Stranding, you could not use ziplines with floating carriers. However, if you played the director's cut version, you could use ziplines with floating carriers. Because of that, I found myself using floating carriers a lot more often in the extended version of the game. Now, some might argue that while ziplines make deliveries faster, some might argue that it takes the challenge away from the game because now you don't have to battle with rough terrain and instead just zip your cargo to your delivery locations. While yes, that is true and it seems more like a structure designed to satisfy people who hate this game, this structure existed since before the release of the vanilla version. It's here for a purpose, and the purpose is that you still have to travel through rough terrain to build these structures in the first place, and have the choice to upgrade it now or later. And you can't build structures if the area of the map is not connected to the chiral network, so you'll be taking a couple trips on wheels or foot before you have a zipline network going to that facility. Make it a zipline network so the post-game is easier and faster. And with premium deliveries demanding you to deliver loads of cargo in an unrealistic amount of time on foot, using ziplines is a very intentional game mechanic of making Sam's job easier. And since some of your structures can be used by other players online, you are helping not just yourself, but other people too. And in the end, that's what Death Stranding is all about, helping people. Going out of your way to do the most difficult, stressful, and thankless work, and in the end, you help a dying country reconnect again through your hard efforts of delivering what they need, building what can help other people traverse the world, and using your own knowledge and skills to make a living. Every simple structure you build and upgrade, and even if it's the worst PCC structure in the game, helps someone else. And while the game is harder and more challenging offline, the best experience and the themes of Death Stranding fits better when you play online. While a lot of people assume that this game is just a walking simulator, it's not. Sure, there's a lot of walking and maintaining your balance, especially at the start of the game, but if you actually make use of the new gear that the facilities create for you and use the PCC structures, ladders, and climbing anchors at the right areas of the game, you're making your next possible delivery or even your current delivery easier, or even helping someone else online without knowing it. You put in hard effort for the most efficient effort, doing hard work that those living luxurious lives fear of living, not realize how important such jobs are. And even with the fear of the inevitable end, whether if that would be death, betrayal, or extinction, us being connected, putting in our knowledge, technology, and preserving that knowledge helps us in the long run. You grow connections, help those in need, even when indirectly. Our world doesn't run on just the rich dominating the poor doing dirty work. It runs on everyone being able to cooperate and work together regardless of different political and religious beliefs. We're stronger as one than apart. And the whole story is captured in gameplay form that a movie could not capture. Yes, Death Stranding is an amazing story and would make a great movie, but it's better experienced as a video game. The fact that you play through Sam's struggles, no matter how frustrating the game can get at times, makes the experience feel real, and truly a special game that holds a candle up there as one of my favorite games of all time. I went from finding it repetitive to okay, to liking it, to absolutely loving it. Even when I got the Platinum Trophy, I still wanted to complete the premium deliveries. Yes, I unironically really love this game, and I have no shame admitting that. If you haven't played Death Stranding, I highly recommend it. If you hated it because of its gameplay loop, I highly recommend trying to play it again. But make sure you make use of what the game offers and don't just carry heavy cargo while doing the bare minimum, or try to do some of the side missions and build up your connection levels instead of just sticking to only the main story deliveries, as the stronger your connections are, the easier the latter part of the game will be for you. There are more effective ways of going about it, and the game gives you enough variety to figure out how to go about it. It's a game that still keeps on giving even in the post-game. If you are to get the game, definitely get the Director's Cut version, as it has more content and features that makes it a superior experience. And for those who have played it, how would you rank the PCC structures yourself? Did you find the post boxes more useful than me, or find ziplines somehow detrimental? Post your thoughts in the comments below. Huge shout out to my channel members, including FurDC25. If you would like to have your name at the end of an It's a Gamer video, be sure to become a channel member today. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a like, comment, subscribe, and ding the bell for more It's a Gamer content. If this video does well, I might make another Death Stranding video in the future. If not, I'm still glad I managed to make one on this truly special experience. Now if you excuse me, I'm gonna get on to playing Death Stranding 2 as soon as I decide to stop being broke.